So it's a big hello from Pure Yoga. So today we are going to be doing add and subtract, so forward and reverse with poses. So we're going to add poses on, take poses off. But we're going to use the same poses as we have done in the last 2 weeks. But what we're going to do is 2 poses at a time out of the 6. And then when we've done the 2 poses at a time, we're going to do 3 poses and then we're going to do all the poses. Stay with me, enjoy the practice, and let's get started. So we're going to come into child's pose. So widen the knees as wide as the mat, big toes come together. Bring your seat towards your feet and start to walk those hands forward. So if you do need to find a block, a can of beans or a book just to help you with your balance of half moon and reverse half moon, feel free to grab those, pause me and collect those now. And then come back to this child's pose, stretching through the arms, sitting back through the heels and the sit bones, and having those legs nice and wide apart to give the space for that tummy just to settle in between those thighs. So we're taking those arms in full flexion as we come to this child's pose position, and we're taking our hip flexors into contraction, stretching through that lower back, stretching through the glutes and the upper hamstrings. Just taking a moment here to scan the body from the top of the head down to the fingertips, down to the toe tips, just checking in with how your body feels as you've arrived in practice. When you've taken a scan of the body, bring the attention to the breath. And just notice how that breath settles as you take automatic breathing, whether it's high up in the chest, whether it's low into the rib cage, or whether you're breathing into the belly. Just being aware of your own natural movements of breath. So practice of yoga can be done with the Ujjayi breath, which is a slight restriction in the back of the throat, breathing in and out through the nose only. Or you can use the mouth if that feels more comfortable if you're holding any colds or allergies. So just taking a few more moments just to settle, just to arrive on the mat in child's pose before we move you to somewhere different. Think about those shoulders, are they relaxed? Think about the hips, maybe you want to give them a little rock, just to settle them a little closer, maybe those bums to the heels. And just let that breath come. Maybe using that nose if you can throughout the whole of the practice. Your next breath in, coming up onto your hands and knees, bringing the heel of the hands under the shoulders, the knees underneath the hips, tops of the feet stay flat. Take a couple of rounds of cat-cow. Breath in, lifts the head, lifts the bum, drops the belly. Breath out, we fold everything back in, chin to chest, tailbone tucks, centre of the spine lifts. Do that a couple of more times, just moving with intention, hoping that all that spine is moving up and down, the thoracic, the lumbar, the tailbone lifts, the sacrum area is a fused part of the spine, but it will still be involved with this articulation. It will just move as one piece. And that cervical spine around the neck as you lift the head. And then as you tuck that chin under, it stretches through that cervical spine, thoracic, lumbar, sacrum, tailbone. The next time you come to neutral, bring the seat back towards the feet, bring the hands down by the sides of the body. Tent the fingertips of the right hand, reach up with the left hand and then over with the left hand to the right side of the room. Come back to centre, left hand comes down, fingertips, and then bring the right hand up and over, keeping the right sit bone down, grounded on that heel. Come back to centre, one more both sides, lift up and over. Back to centre, up and over with the right hand. Come back to centre, bring your left hand to the right knee, just rotate the body to the right. Then bring the right hand to the left knee, rotate to the left. One more both sides, just taking lateral flexion, flexion and extension, And rotation, again to the left. Just moving that spine in all its planes of movement. Come back to the centre and then just make circles with the upper part of the body in one direction. Just moving nice and fluidly. And then take it the other way. And then come back to a centre space. Bring both hands back forward underneath the shoulders. Step both feet back into a plank position. Hold it in plank for a couple of breaths. Pushing the heels back, crown forward, squeezing the belly back, having a nice long line from the crown of the head to the heels. Pushing those hands into the mat, the chest cavity away from that floor, and into that space between the shoulder blades, taking those shoulders into slight protraction. So it's a little rounding in between those shoulder blades. And then start to paddle the feet as you start to lift up the hips, finding our first downward facing dog. Taking a gaze back towards the toes or the knees, or maybe up to those hips. Bringing one heel down at a time, encouraging those hamstrings to play ball with you through this practice. Sometimes those hamstrings are tight if you've been seated all day. If you've just woke up in the morning and you're doing this practice early, there's never a good time for those hamstrings. So let them join in the class nice and slowly. Then if you're ready to bring those heels to a still position, encouraging the heels down towards the floor, toes are in front of the heels, feet hip width apart, hands shoulder width apart. Then try and just create some space along those collarbones and those space between the shoulders and the ears. So we'll take 3 Vinyasa rounds, your choice of Vinyasa. If you're coming with me, option 1, coming forward to plank. Then dropping down with the knees and tucking the toes, turn the creases of the elbows, release down to the floor. Push into the hands and lift up the chest. Release the chest back down, tuck under with the toes, bring the chest back towards the thighs. Push into those hands, push into the feet and lift up the hips. Squeeze the heels back. Option 1 or come option 2 with me, come forward to a plank position, turn the creases of the elbows forward, release down. Straight body all the way to the floor, untuck the toes, push into the hands, maybe come a little higher with your back bend if your backs are happy. Then release the chest back down, tuck under with those toes. Bring those chests back towards those thighs, push into the hands, push into the feet, lift up the hips and squeeze the heels back. Option 1 or 2 or option 3 with me, come forward to a plank position, turn the creases of the elbows, let the elbows graze the ribs as you bring it to a hover elbow height. Roll through over the toes and lift up the chest. Taking it back to down dog, rolling straight over those toes, lifting those hips, squeezing the heels back. So remember, you have one of those 3 options to choose to work through these practices. We're going to start with the standing flow. So we'll be starting with our side angle and then our warrior 2. So on your breath in, lift up with the right leg. Take a bend into the right knee, turn the hips to the right side of the room, left heel squeezes to the floor. Realign those hips, bring the knee into the chest. Step the right foot through in between the hands. Bring your right hand to the inside of that right leg. Left hand comes up and over and points forward towards the front of the mat. And our left heel drops down internally towards the floor. Pushing into the outside edge of the left foot and the whole of the right foot. Maybe gazing towards that left hand. Breathing into this space, keeping the head in line with the spine. Back leg straight, right knees bent. Then use those oblique muscles. We're going to find our warrior 2. So bringing those shoulders over the hips. Keeping that right knee bent, the hips nice and low. Aiming to get that right thigh maybe parallel to the mat or somewhere close. Both arms are in line with the shoulders. And we're gazing towards that right hand. Just have maybe a check-in with the left. Maybe it's down here, maybe it's too high. See whether you can bring it in line with the right. That right knee turns out to the side to get that stretch on that inner groin. So as we mentioned, we reverse back through. So the only pose we have to go back to is our side angle stretch. So bringing that right hand back down to the floor, reaching up and over with that left hand, keeping that right knee bent, hips nice and low. Holding it in this side angle stretch for another couple of breaths. Feeling the stretch of that upper hand. Then bring that left hand down, right hand to the opposite side of the right foot. Raise that right leg up to the ceiling, bend the knees, stack up the hips. Realign the hips, bring the right foot to meet the left. Take a little paddle of the feet, a little nod and shake of the heads. And then we're going to take that on the other side. So your breath in, your left leg lifts. We bend the knee, we stack at the hips, push the left foot to the right side of the room. Right heel squeezes to the floor. Then realign the hips, bring the knee to the chest, gaze in between the hands as you step your left foot through. Drop your right heel down internally. Left hand comes to the inside of the left foot as you reach up and over with that right hand. Use that left elbow to push that left knee out. And then turn that chest to the right side of the room, turn the hips to the right side of the room. Trying to tuck under with that left bum cheek slightly and open out with that right hip. Side angle stretch. Try not to let that right shoulder creep up towards the ear. Try and send it back into that back pocket of the right side. So using those oblique muscles, keeping the hips low as you lift up through the torso to find your warrior two. Left knee is still bent, right leg is straight. Both arms in line with the shoulders, palms facing down. Relax those shoulders, lengthen up through the crown of the head. Try and lift the lower belly up and tuck the tailbone down. Shorten that space between the ribs and the hips. Core engagement as you hold warrior two. One more breath here. Then we reverse back to our side angle stretch. Bring your left hand to the inside of the left foot. Right hand reaches up and over. Chest staying turned to the right side. That left arm anchors that left knee out. Easy breaths in. Long breaths out. And then releasing that right hand to the floor. The left hand to me on the other side. Lift that left leg up to the ceiling. Bend at the knees, stack at the hips. Realign the hips, left foot to meet the right. Vinyasa of your choice. Forward to plank on your inhale. And release down to the floor or hover. Drop the knees if you wish. Roll through, up, lift up the chest. Taking it back to down dog, lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. So the next two poses are triangle and half moon. So if you need a block to balance on, just bring the block just to that right side edge of the mat. On your breath in, you lift the right leg, we bend that knee, we stack at the hip there, left heel squeezes to the floor. Realign the hip, bring the knee into the chest, gaze in between the hands, step your right foot through, drop your left heel down, windmill the left arm up and over, straighten the right leg. Reach forward and down with that right hand and up with the left hand gazing up towards that left thumb. So we have that two planar glass on each side of the body, so we've got a flat body if you looked from the top of the mat down to the bottom. That right shoulder tucks under and the left shoulder stacks. That thumb we can gaze to on that left hand. Really feel that openness and chest expansion as you reach up and down with both hands. Then gaze down towards the right foot, take a bend into that right knee, take a hold of your block if you're using. Step onto that right foot. As you lift that left leg up to hip height, the left hand goes up to the ceiling or on the left hip. Hips and shoulders still turning towards that left side mat. The left toes are pointing to that long side edge, right toes to the short edge. Right hand is the support onto the block, or if you don't wish to use the block, just fingertips on the floor. Still encouraging your right shoulder under and your left shoulder back. Hold it in this half moon pose just for one more breath. And then we know we're transitioning back through triangles, so bend into your right knee again, drop your left foot down, shoulders and over the hips, reach forward and down with the right hand as that left hand lifts. Gaze up to the thumb, keep that length along both sides of the torso as you hold this straight leg pose. Breathing easily. And then bring that left hand down, right hand down, either side of the right foot. Raise the right leg up to the ceiling, bend up the knees, stack at the hip, left heel squeezes to the floor. Then realign the hips, right foot to meet the left. Take a little paddle of the feet. Before we take it on the other side, just move your block over to your left side. Your next breath in, your left leg lifts. We bend up the knee and we stack at the hip. Realign those hips, bring that left knee into the chest. Gaze in between the hands and step your left foot through. Drop your right heel down internally, windmill the right arm up and over, straighten both legs. Reach forward and down with the left hand and reach up with the right hand. Try not to lock out that left kneecap. Try and support it by using the muscles in the upper thigh. Right shoulder stacks on top of the left. Left bum cheek tucks under. Right hip turns out. Feel that support through the floor, the balance and stability through the feet. Head in line with the spine, long torso. Try not to collapse too much over that left leg. And then gazing towards the toes of the left foot, take a hold of the block if you're using. Step forward onto that left foot as you raise that right leg up. Keep those shoulders and hips turned towards that right side of the room. Maybe your gaze can go up to that right thumb if you're good with the balance. Toes of the right foot pointing to the long edge, toes of the left foot pointing to the short edge. Easy breaths as you hold half moon. Challenging balancing pose, probably one of the most challenging personally for me, other than hand balances. One more breath here. And then step that right foot back. Come up with the shoulders, straighten both legs. Left hand comes to the inside of the left leg as the right hand lifts. Remember, reverse back through the poses. Easy breaths. And then bring that right hand down, left hand down. Lift that left leg to the ceiling. Bend up the knees, stack at the hip. Realign the hip, bring your left foot to meet the right. Take a vinyasa of your choice, forward to plank, inhale. Release to the floor or hover. Roll through, up, lift up the chest. Making your way back to down dog, either chest to thighs, or rolling straight over those toes and lifting the hips, squeezing the heels back. Take a nice, easy breath. So we do another two poses, which will be reverse half moon, so you may still need to have that block at the front. And then we'll be taking it into chair. So weight into your left foot, raise the right leg up to the ceiling, bend the knees, stack at the hip. Realign the hips, bring that knee to the chest. Gaze in between the hands as you step your right foot through. Your right hand, your left hand comes onto the block. We step forward onto your right leg, your left toes come back to the shin. So using that block or bean can, turn and twist the shoulders to the right side of the room. The left leg stays lifted hip high or somewhere close. We're balancing on that right leg. Twisting through the waist, pelvis stays square to the mat. And trying to stack that right shoulder as much as you can on top of the left, whatever the range of movement you have for your rotation. If that upper hand wants to come to the hip, bring it to the hip and maybe find the rotation there. One more breath here. Then bring that left foot back to meet the right. Sink into the hips, raise both hands, finding our chair position. Relax shoulders, lengthen up through the arms, lift the lower belly up, and push that tailbone down. So holding it in this chair just for another breath. Feather-like touch through the toes, weight in the heels. Then taking it back to that reverse half moon, so bring your left hand back to the block, reach up with your right hand, then reach back with your left leg. Finding again that rotation from the waist, squared hips to the floor, straight legs on both sides. One more breath here in reverse half moon. And then step your left foot back, bring both hands either side of your right foot, raise the right leg up to the ceiling, bend the knees, stack at the hip. Realign the hip, right foot to meet the left. Take a paddle of the feet, nod and shake of the head. So same on your left side. Breath in, your left leg lifts. Bend up the knees, stack at the hip, turn the hips to the left. Realign the hips, bring the knee into the chest. Gaze in between the hands, step your left foot through. Step forward onto your left foot, bring your right hand onto the block, raise your right leg to hip height, and then lift that left hand up to the ceiling, turning and twisting, rotating through the waist. Hip stays square, right leg straight, pushing the heel back, toes back towards the shins. Holding it in this space, really strong balance as the body is slightly distorted through the rotation, and it's got to find that balance on that left leg, all those muscles in that left ankle. One more breath here, and then step your right foot forward, raise both hands up, sink the chair low, weight into the heels, feather-like touch through those toes, maybe give them a wiggle. Raising the arms as high as you can to get that thoracic extension, but try not to arch in the lower back. So taking it back to half moon, right hand comes onto the block, left hand lifts, and then lift up with that right leg, up to hip height. Find again that rotation, half moon. One more breath in this space. And then step your right foot back, both hands either side of your left foot. Left leg lifts. Bend the knees, stack at the hips. Realign the hips, left foot to meet the right. Inhale, forward to plank. Exhale, release down or hover. Roll through, up, lift up the chest. Making your way back to down dog. Lifting those hips, squeezing those heels back. Have a nod, have a shake of the head. So taking 3 poses now on your right side. So those 3 poses are going to be the first 3, side angle stretch, warrior 2, and then adding triangle on. And then we'll take the other 3 of half moon, reverse half moon and chair. So the second set is going to be more challenging. So right side, breath in, raise the right leg. Turn the hips, push the right heel to the left side of the room, left heel to the floor. Then bring that knee into the chest, step your right foot through. Drop your left heel down, right hand to the inside of the right foot, reach up with the left hand, send it towards the front of the room, side angle stretch, just for a breath. Then lift that torso, shoulders over the hips, keep those hips low, warrior 2. And then straight through that right leg, reach forward and down with the right hand as that left hand lifts. Finding triangle pose. So remember, we reverse back through all those 3 poses. So starting with our triangle where we are now. Then lift the shoulders over the hips and bend your right knee, warrior 2. Then bring your right hand to the inside of that right foot as your left hand reaches up and over, side angle stretch. And then bring your left hand down, right hand to the outside of the right foot, lift that right leg up to the ceiling, bend the knees, stack up with the hips, realign the hips, right foot to meet the left. Take a paddle through the feet and a nod and shake of the head. Same 3 poses on your left side, going forward and then back through reverse. Reach up with the left leg, bend at the knee, stack at the hips. Realign the hips, bring the knee to the chest. Gaze in between the hands, step your left foot through. Drop your right heel down, left hand on the inside of the left foot, right hand reaches up, over to side angle stretch. Turn those shoulders to the right. Then lift those shoulders over the hips, use the muscles at the side of the waist to find your warrior 2. Keeping that left knee turned out, head stacked on top of the spine. Then straighten through your left leg, reach forward and down with the left hand as your right hand lifts. Finding triangle, gazing up to the thumb. Everything facing the right side of the room. Both legs straight, pushing strong into the floor with the feet for stability. And then we're going to reverse back through those poses, so starting with this triangle where we are now. Then bring the shoulders back over the hips and bend your left knee to find your warrior 2. Maybe sink those hips a little lower. Then bring your left hand to the floor on the inside of the left foot. Right hand reaches up and over, side angle stretch. Twist and turn that body to that right side, really opening up through the side of the body from the fingertips of the right hand down to the outside edge of the right foot. And then bring your right hand down, left hand to the opposite side of the left foot, lift the left leg. Bend up the knees, stack at the hips, realign the hip, left foot to meet the right. So taking a vinyasa here of your choice, forward to plank, inhale, release to the floor, straight bodies, dropping the knees or hover, roll through, lift up the chest. Release the chest back down, tuck under with the toes. Bring the chest back to the thighs, push into the hands and feet, lift up the hips, squeeze the heels back. Just coming down onto the knees a moment, maybe taking on some water, or a restorative couple of moments in child's pose before we add on to the rest of the flow. So we have half moon reverse and chair pose for this 3 that we're doing now. So have your block or baked bean can or book ready that you use to balance on, or if you're not wishing to do the balance on the blocks, feel free not to use them. I'm just going to remove the block this time and do it without the block. So when you're ready, starting in your downward facing dog, going through tabletop first, stepping back to plank second, lifting the hips third. Without fussing with those hands and feet, you should have your true alignment of down dog. So your breath in, raise that right leg, bend that knee, stack up with those hips. Then realign the hips, bring the knee into the chest, gaze in between the hands, step your right foot through. So either use the block or just bring your fingertips of your right slightly forward of your right foot, lift your left leg, bring your left hand either to the shoulder or straight up towards the ceiling, finding half moon. Left toes bringing back to the shins, pointing out to that left side of the mat. Left shoulder stacking as much as you can on top of the right. Nice long line from the crown of the head to the heel of the left foot. So taking it into reverse half moon, so square the shoulders and the hips to the floor. Left hand comes down as your support, either on a block or the mat. And lift your right hand, turn your left toes down towards the floor now. As you rotate through the waist, right shoulder comes to stack as much as you can on top of the left. One more breath here. And then bring that right hand down, bring your left foot to meet the right. Bend into the knees, raise the arms, sink the hips, feather light touching the toes, wiggle those toes. Lift the lower belly up, tuck the tailbone down. Shorten that space between the rib and the hips for core connection. Lift the shoulders as high as you can without dumping into that lower back. So going back to our reverse half moon, so bring your left hand to the floor or a block, reach your right hand up, Send your left leg back and up to hip height. Twist, rotate to that right side of the room. Then taking it to half moon, bringing your right hand down, turning your hips and your shoulders then to the left side, your toes of your left foot to that long edge of the mat. Finding that that twist, and turn out of the hips. One more breath in this space. Then bend into your right knee, bring both hands down either side of the right foot, drop the left toes to the mat. Right leg lifts, bend up with the knees, stack up with the hips. Realign the hips, right foot to meet the left. Paddle of the feet. Same on the left side. Breath in, left leg lifts. Bend the knees, stack up with the hip. Realign the hip, bring that knee to the chest. Gaze in between the hands, step your left foot through. Left hand comes either onto the block or just in front of you at the front of the left toes. Right leg lifts. Turn and twist the hips and the shoulders to the right side as you raise the right hand. Right toes turn out to that right side of the mat. Try and stack that right hip as much as you can on top of the left. Feather light touch with the fingers of that left hand. Maybe come away from the floor with the left hand if you're not using a block. Then bring that right hand down, square the hips and shoulders. Then reach up with the left hand, rotating through the waist to find your reverse half moon. So now the toes of the right foot are pointing to the floor, hips and shoulders, well, hips are square to the mat, shoulders are turned to the left. One more breath here, try and keep that back leg nice and straight, left leg nice and straight. And then release that left hand to the floor, bring your right foot to meet the left, bend into the knees, sink the hips, raise the arms. Find that chair position, finding the depth in the pose. Try not to dump into that lower back. So then bringing the hands to the floor, lift up with the right leg. Right hand stays on the mat. We find that twisted half moon, rotated to the left. Right toes down, pointing to the mat, back to the shins. And then bring that left hand down, turn the shoulders and the hips around to twist to that right side of the room now. Holding it in half moon, toes are pointing to the right of that right foot. Then bring both hands down, step your right foot back, lift your left leg up to the ceiling, bend the knees, stack at the hip, realign the hip, left foot to meet the right. Take a vinyasa of your choice, forward to plank, inhale, release down to the floor or hover, roll through, up, lift up the chest, making your way back to down dog, lifting the hips, squeezing those heels back. Coming down onto your knees, choice to restore the breath in child's pose, or sort out your clothing like I'm doing. Try not to flash too much, try and keep things tucked in, but occasionally they make their way loose. So if you're taking some water for rehydration, it's probably a really good time to do that, because we're going to be doing now the whole of the 6 poses in forward and reverse. So we'll be going through side angle, warrior 2, triangle, half moon reverse and chair, and reversing back to half moon reverse, half moon, triangle, warrior 2, side angle stretch. So if you're anything like me, starting to feel a little fatigued, just up it, regress it, whatever you need to do. The vinyasas I'm going to do in between both left and right sides, but if you don't wish to take those vinyasas, just take a moment and have a breath. So make your way back to down dog, bringing the hands under the shoulders, stepping both feet back into plank, then lift the hips to down dog. So going with that right side, if you want to place the block where you think you'll be needing it for your half moons, put that in position. If you're not using, then obviously just leave it by the side. On your breath in, right leg lifts, bend the knees, stack up the hips, turn the hips to the right. Realign the hips, bring that knee to the chest, gaze in between the hands as you step the right foot through. Left heel drops down, right hand comes to the inside of the right leg, and the left hand comes up and over, reaching forward to the front of the mat, turning the shoulders and hips to the left side of the room. Holding it in side angle just for one more breath. And then lift those shoulders over those hips, sink into that right knee. Find your warrior two position here. Opening that right knee out. Then straighten your right leg, reach forward and down with the right hand. As you lift your left hand up towards the ceiling, left shoulder stacking on top of the right. Maybe gaze into that left thumb. Then take a gaze down towards that right leg, step forward onto that right leg, lifting up with the left leg, finding a place for that right hand either on a block or on fingertips, finding half moon facing the left side, left toes pointing to that left side of the room. Then bring your left hand down, square the hips and shoulders to the floor, twist through the waist, send that right hand to the ceiling, trying to stack now the right shoulder on top of the left, left toes pointing down to the floor. Bring your right hand down, your left foot to meet the right, sink the hips, weight in the heels, lift the arms up by the side of the ears. If that feels a little too stressful, bring the hands to the chest, but keep those hips low, keep them square. Then release the hands back to the floor, straighten the legs, fingertips of the left on the mat, right hand lifts, left leg lifts, toes pointing down, twist through the waist, reverse half moon. Then bring your right hand down to the floor, turn and twist and open up through the chest and the hips to the left side of the room. Toes turn to point to the left, heel pushes back to the back of the room. Then bend into your right knee, step your left foot back, straighten up through the right leg, reach forward and down with the right hand as the left hand lifts. Triangle pose, facing the left. Then lift the shoulders over the hips, take a bend into your right knee and find your warrior two. Then find your side angle stretch, right hand to the inside of the right leg, left hand comes up and over, reaching forward with that left hand, turning the chest and hips still to the left. Then bringing your left hand down, come onto the toes of the back foot, lift that right leg, up to the ceiling, turn the hips, point the right foot to the left. Realign the hips, bring that right foot down to meet. Take a Vinyasa of your choice or just take a water break, ready for the left side. Whatever variation works for you, whatever your body feels it can or can't do. Work with it, listening to it, knowing how that body feels all the time as you're working through these poses. We have one more side to go, left side with all 6 poses, forward and reverse. Breath in, left leg lifts, bend that knee, stack up with the hip. Realign the hip, bring that knee into the chest. Gaze in between the hands, step your left foot through, drop your right heel down, left hand to the inside of the left foot, right hand reaches up, over, fingertips towards the front of the room. Then lift up with the torso, shoulders stack over the hips, hips stay low, left knee stays bent for warrior two. Straighten through the left leg, reach forward and down with the left hand, triangle pose. Then gaze towards that left foot, step forward, lift up the right leg, turn the hips and shoulders to that right side of the room, half moon pose using a block or no. Then bring that right hand down, lift up with the left hand, rotate, twist to the left, half moon reverse. Then bring that left hand down, step your right foot forward, sink the hips, feather light touching the toes, Raise the arm to chair. Then straighten the legs, bring the hands to the floor, raise the right leg, keep the right hand onto the floor or block, lift the left hand, rotate, twist, half moon. Bring your left hand down, turn the hips and shoulders to face the right, half moon, toes facing to the right side, heel pushing back. Then let the left knee come to a bend, slightly drop the right heel. Straighten up through the left leg, reach forward, down with the left hand, right hand lifts, triangle pose. Coming towards the end now, shoulders over the hips, bend into your left knee. Hold it in warrior two. Find side angle stretch, left hand to the floor, right hand lifts up and over, gaze into that right hand. Then bring your right hand down, left hand to the other side of the left foot, toes to the back foot, left leg lifts, bends the knees, stack up with the hip. Realign the hip, left foot to meet the right. Last vinyasa, forward to plank. Or not if you don't wish, making your way onto the backs if you're not taking this vinyasa. And making your way back to down dog, just for a breath if you're in your vinyasa. And making your way into a seat. Buns in the centre, feet to the front, arms shoulder height. Slowly let those bodies come down to the floor with control. Let those shoulders release to the mat. Bring the hands down by the sides of the body, turn the palms up. Bring the feet out, mat width apart. Push into the heels, lift the hips, tuck the tailbone under. Have a little rock of those hips from side to side. Maybe a turn of the head in one direction. Coming back through centre, over to the other side. Back into the middle. Take a long breath in. Long breath out. And then just allow that body to be supported by the floor. Relax the jaw, the forehead. Maybe close those eyes and just take a few moments just to consolidate everything you've just done. Those twists, those turns, those folds, those bends. Everything in yoga takes us through all planes of movement. Start to take some deeper breaths now. Take a long breath in through the nose. Long sigh out through the mouth. Take another couple of breaths with this deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Starting to wriggle those fingers, those toes. If you want to stay in relaxation a little longer, pause me now. Then bring some rotation into those wrists, into those ankles. If you want to take that full body stretch, stretching the hands up and over the head, stretching through the fingers, the toes, arching into that lower back. Then bringing the hands back up and over, bringing the knees in towards the chest, maybe having just a little rock of the body from side to side, massaging that spine, thanking it for practice. Your choice whether to roll over onto one side or come up a little more dynamically, rocking up and down that spine a couple of times. And then bringing yourself into a seated position when you're ready. Placing the hands on top of the thighs. Keeping those eyes closed, those heads slightly bowed. Your next breath in, bring the hands up and over the head, bring the palms together at the top, bring the hands to the chest. Just take a moment to have gratitude for how your body's moved and the discipline you've given to coming onto the mat with me today. Have peace in your thoughts, your words, your hearts. From my heart to yours, Namaste.